Well, good morning, folks. This is Jim Hodson with the Fort Worth Aviation Museum. It is Saturday, July 18th, I think. And I'm here with Admiral Jim Lehr, and we're going to be talking about the USS America and his work with that, along with him being an aviator. So I'm going to sit down in the chair next to Jim, and we're going to see if we can make this work. So first of all, Jim, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here. Now, you've been involved here with us here at the museum for quite a while, since 07 maybe?
Right when the F-14, when we got the F-14.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah. And it had the C-5 bring in.
Yeah, you were instrumental in getting that.
Well, we worked together.
Yeah, well, we did, but I mean, it was still, Virginia was very proud of its highways, so we kind of tricked that system and got the airplane to bring it in. But so you've been with us for 13 or 14 years.
Yes, sir.
So and we've had you here as a docent mostly, and that's been good. But why don't you give everybody just a little bit of an idea of your background in the military?
I graduated from high school, Mount Carmel High School in Los Angeles in 1957. Joined the Marines and discovered that walking and being a camouflage train was not fun. So went to Loyola University for a couple of years and then applied with accepted for the Naval Aviation Cadet program with Pensacola. Got my wings in 1961 and was on active duty until 1995.
What airplane did you fly first year with?
I flew the S2 tractor
Okay.
on the Bennington class of the 27 Charlie carriers. Vietnam came along with that to go fly A4. So, flew A4 about 3,000 hours in the A7 Tomcat and the F-16 Top Gun. Flew the A-60, got to fly the British Tornado TR-3.
Oh, did you really?
And got to fly behind the tactile helicopter.
Wow. You said you flew the F-16 with Top Gun?
Right, it went down. I was not far Top Gun, but
Yeah.
went down to Central and got to fly two-seat F-16 and the F-5F, which was the dual-seat.
Okay. Is that the F-16 that's over the Frontier Flight Plane?
I don't know.
You got a two-seater over there.
Well, I think that one had more than Lockheed was specifically designed for a flight test bed for the F-35.
Okay.
They had variable control and everything else. I think that was the general.
I just want to mention to everybody, since I'm not behind the camera, if you're asking questions, we're going to have to try to pick them up later if I can get somebody over here to ask the questions for us. But Jim, it's always fascinated me with carriers because, first of all, most people don't know a carrier driver at all, and the process that it takes for the Navy to select somebody to be in control of and take care of, 3,000 to 5,000 people on a ship, and then operate it anywhere in the world. It's got to be a pretty tough pyramid to be able to climb. So, what was the process like? Did you know early in your career that you wanted to aspire to command an aircraft carrier, or was that just something that became a natural progression?
Well, I think it's more of a natural progression. As a young infant, you're just trying to survive.
Yeah, right.
As a young first lieutenant in the Marine Corps, second lieutenant, you went as I advanced, squadron command, air wing command, and you kind of think you as a sure be nice to be. That's the ultimate goal is to be for a carrier aviator.
Sure.
And a side note, the United States Navy is the only Navy in the world where aviators command officers and carriers.
Oh, is that right?
You go to the UK, France, Australia when they had carriers, and the Italians have a surface warfare non-aviator.
Oops.
Hang on.
sorry, the camera decided to have a mind of its own and flip, so we're gonna get back into business here.
So to continue on is that once you're selected for 06 or captain, then they have each year they have what they call a major command screening board headed by a 3-star aviator, and they select squadron commanding officers. They select air wing commanders and generally 4 to 5 carrier CEOs. And prior to that, everyone that goes before that board eligible for carrier CEO has had command of a squadron.
Okay.
That generally and also command of a support ship, like I had the opportunity to command 40,000-ton oiler prior to going for selection
Okay.
carrier.
And how long did you operate? Were you on that?
A year and a half.
Year and a
18
half,
months,
okay.
right.
And I don't know if most people know this, but the Navy is kind of set up with an East Coast fleet, West Coast fleet.
Right, yeah.
So were you an Atlantic sailor or Pacific?
I did all my squadron tours up through the air wings in the Pacific.
Okay.
And then I went to D.C., did my turn in prison, and then was selected for air wing. And air wing on the East Coast had oiler on Norfolk and the America on Norfolk.
Okay. Now, prior to going to the oiler, did they send you to some kind of a ship school?
Yes, we went to a ship handling course at the Newport, Rhode Island, but also there was a nuclear school on Idaho Falls that was specifically oriented for conventional power.
Okay.
We learned mainly about the engineering plan, but how boilers work, how evaporators work, just the mechanics of a ship. And then prior to going to the carrier, you go back to a couple weeks school, kind of going over what the carrier power plant is.
Okay. Now, when you're going through these schools, do they have simulators like you've got in aviation?
We went through a ship handling simulator course prior to going to the oiler up at Flight Safety Maritime at LaGuardia.
Okay.
And it was a school that was, the instructors were Maritime Academy graduates,
Okay.
port captains.
Okay.
And
Whoops. We flipped again. Sorry. We'll get it back. This thing has got a mind of its own at times, and for some reason wants to keep flipping. So we're still going here.
But when you use an aviation analogy, driving a ship is much like it's rolling motion. When you go alongside the refuel, when you come into port, other things you just have to realize, like on an American sheet, it was 85,000 tons, 1,100 feet long, 250 feet wide, and you had all that sail area. What does wind do? What does current do?
The carrier's got to be a lot, right?
Right, and certain things that you have to understand in maneuvering of the water.
Okay. Okay. So you did. How long was the school before you took a Cal?
The Clusa had
Close ahead. Okay.
5 weeks.
5 weeks. Okay. And so then you were. Did you start out as the XO?
No.
Okay. So
No.
you started out right as the CO.
Right, you come in and the same thing on conventional carriers in various times. The aviators came in and you don't step up from XO to CO as you do in the squadron.
Okay.
And other things is you are the commander. When you walk aboard, if you're the selected commanding officer, you are the commanding officer.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool. So, how long a time period was it between the oiler and when you were selected for the American?
3 years.
Okay. So, what did you do in that?
I was the executive assistant for the chief of staff at Supreme Allied Command Forces Atlantic.
I do not know why the camera is wanting to do this so much here today. It's it's done so well for us the last few weeks, but now it just keeps wanting to flip around. So and it's not you, Jim. It's I can't do much with this, so we'll just have to make sure it's. If we tug on it a little bit, it seems to flip. So at any rate, so you were still able to maintain some proficiency.
Right. And he gets filed out, but the boss, Admiral Dunn, was very frustrating. They wanted his staff to fly because the best way to get feedback is to be amongst the troops.
Sure.
Not sitting in our headquarters.
So now you're a captain at this point?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And so when you promoted to admiral before you got to America or after?
No, I was promoted after serving short in America.
Okay.
I went to be chief of staff for the U.S. Sixth Fleet in Qaeda. Was selected.
So now you know, we all had detailers in the military, and you would tell them in your dreams what you wanted to do, and you know when you were up with your dreams. So did you have an opportunity to put in your dream sheet that you wanted to have a carrier?
No, it's that carrying is once you have squadron, you've had an air wing, and you've had an oiler, and you're put into a pot of folks that have had those criteria that have been met, and then the command selection board, and your record is submitted to the board for their review, selection, and others.
And so now you know when the board is meeting, right?
Yes.
You know, it's not any of us here. I'm not. Sorry about this, folks. I really am. Don't have any idea why it's not cooperating with us here today. But we're gonna fight through it.
And the other thing is that you have certain year groups, like I was year group 61, and certain benchmark year groups. Those are the folks, they take the folks out of that year group that will become part of carrier selection.
Okay. Now, tell me what it felt like when you got the letter the minute of the call that said you were going to get the American.
Well, initially you got a carrier,
Okay.
and then from there is that.
So what did it feel like that?
But the thing is, I forget because it's a dream come true. And I think the second part of it is it's a very humbling experience that a person, a high school graduate, coming into the Navy without a college education, was going to command one of the national assets and be responsible for 5,500 lives
Go ahead, keep talking.
and an 80 airplane.
So that's kind of like the good news, bad news, right? I mean, it's like you're excited because it's happened, and then it's like, be careful what you wish for.
Well, no, I think you're very excited is that you at that time understand the magnitude of the responsibility and that your success will be dependent upon the hard work of the entire crew day in and day out.
I'm going to just sit over here and hold this, Jim. I'll talk to you from over here, but you're good.
And the second thing is that you realize someone's had a lot of trust and confidence that you're capable of performing what is expected to be a commanding officer of a carrier.
So then how long was it after that you found out you were going to get the America?
He was selected in November and took command of, that was November of 86 and took command of America in February 1987.
Okay. And so now, did you have to go back to another school?
No.
So you had your experience on with the oiler.
Right, with the oiler, and also during the tour as commanding officer of the Strike Fighter Squadron, got qualified as officer of the deck underway on a carrier.
Okay. So tell me about the first time you left the pier.
Well, took over in the shipyard, and that was in February '87, and it was a comprehensive overhaul. The first time the carrier had been had a comprehensive overhaul. So we got underway in February 1988, and 70% of the crew had never been to sea, and Blair had never been to sea as the captain either. But you have trust and confidence in your crew. You've been to some schools and everything, and everyone was excited about going to sea, and we safely exited Norfolk Harbor, got to sea, and
so did you have a pilot, a harbor pilot, to get
you have
out?
a harbor pilot in as you enter port to go pierside.
Okay.
But the pilot, like in Norfolk, when you start out the channel to the sea, they get off before you're totally out of the
Okay.
harbor.
So who did you rely on mostly on the ship in your chain? I mean, I'm sure the chief of the ship.
Well, yeah, some real key players. You have the air boss, who's
Okay.
responsible for the flight deck operation. You have the chief engineer. America had 8 1,500-pound boilers, 4 turbines, and the horsepower is about 280,000 shaft horsepower.
Wow.
Supply officer, we had over $50 million worth of stuff. You had the navigator, you had the executive officer, so you had the master chief of the boat. You had all folks that worked as a team. You had good days,
Yeah.
and then you had other days that you were challenged. But you had to realize that you were dealing with 19-year-olds. And I had an all-male crew. They had not integrated yet.
Okay.
But again, you have good days and bad days. You as a captain, at times you have to be the set of eyes that said, enough is enough, we're going to shut things down.
Yeah.
Because you work the folks 14 to 16 hours a day, and they want their livelihood, their morale is built upon success.
Sure.
And they get tired.
Well, that has a lot to do with you, though. That has a lot to do with the tone that you set.
Well, yes, you have to understand they're human, but at the same time you have to utilize your chain of command.
Right.
They
Okay.
work for the chief. They work for the division officer. And if you, the captain, have to go around and tour and look at things, but you do not have to be the decision maker.
Yeah.
You have to force them to go back to their next senior petty officer, chief, or officer, and tell them that they have a problem, and let them take care of it. If they can't take care of it, then you use the chain of command.
I know you've got a picture here of the America. If you could hold that up in front of you so people could get an idea of what that looked like. There we go.
This is USS America when we went to Fleet Week in New York in 1988. We were the first carrier to go back to New York in 50 years.
And how many aircraft were on board?
We had 80 airplanes.
80 airplanes, and that was how many squadrons?
That was 8 squadrons, roughly 8 squadrons. We had 2 F-14 squadrons, we had 2 F-18 squadrons, we had an A-6 squadron, we had an EA-6 squadron, E-2 squadron, S-3 squadron, and a helicopter squadron.
Okay. Just hi to Jim Bloomberg. He just said hi to you, Admiral. So.
Good. Good
So
morning, Jim.
now, what was your job when carrier operations were underway? When you had flight operations?
Anytime you had flight operations, the captain had to be on the bridge.
Okay.
So the typical day, you usually start about 0600. You'd get up, walk the ship, if you will, just go to different spaces than before. And you're not there to inspect, you're not there to discipline, you're there to kind of get ground through, thank the folks for the job they do.
Okay.
Is there something that the captain is doing that needs to be modified? We'd have department head meetings, et cetera, and if we were on the noon to midnight schedule, you'd be up on the bridge about 11 o'clock, if you will, and then we would fly noon to midnight, 1+45 length cycle.
Okay.
By midnight, you'd wrap things up, and you'd call it a night. And there was things called captain's night orders, and that was for the officer of the day. But he had to wake the captain any time another vessel was within 5 nautical miles, 10,000 yards.
Okay.
And tell him the bearing, distance, course, what's the avoidance, or if you got uncomfortable for anything, if you will. And then around every third day, we would go alongside and order and take on probably 2 to 3 million gallons of fuel.
Wow.
So you were up till about, you would cease flying at midnight. You had to configure the flight deck, pull some airplanes forward before you went alongside. So you go alongside about 2 o'clock, and you were done refueling and wrapped up by 4. So maybe you sleep till 7, but
Okay.
that's kind of the routine.
Now, you were never out there alone, right? The carrier was out there with other ships.
Sometimes we usually had a Aegis cruiser or a frigate with a, if you will, for plane guard.
Okay.
If the pilot had to eject, we had a helo up all times. But also we had a plane guard, either a frigate or a Aegis cruiser with us the entire time.
Okay. We're kind of running towards the end of our time here, but I want to ask you a couple more things. Which to you was the more exciting, the launch of aircraft or the recovery? Which part of that did you?
Well, I think as a carrier pilot, your most challenging of those two evolutions is coming aboard ship at night.
Sure.
On a pitching deck, and your minimum of 200-foot ceiling, half-mile visibility, and you're in the middle of the Pacific. You better get aboard.
Yeah.
Or you had to go catapult. You're along for the ride.
Right.
You go from 0 to 170 knots in 2.4 seconds, 270 feet.
Wow. Now, did you get to fly at all when you were the CO of the boat?
Yes, when I was
Okay.
CO of the carrier,
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to fly the F-14.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay. So they did let you fly.
Yes, I had a great boss. You didn't fly at night. You flew during good weather. Because
Right.
You didn't fly on a daily basis. But it was good for the crew to see the captain trusted his crew
To leave.
even though he was not there.
Yeah.
So it would be on the bridge or the ops boss, if you will.
Kind of a morale thing.
And to see him go up on the catapult and just everything, it was satisfying for me, but I think it was also great trust and confidence in the 5,500 great folks that were part of America.
Yeah. What kind of missions or activities did you do while you were on the America? What kind of were you involved with?
Oh, we were mainly we had to go through a engineering certification, flight deck certification, because we had
Okay.
been in the shipyard for 18 months. So we went through an extensive and exhaustive refresher training, if you will. And then we started our workup. The air wing had gone to Fallon, and we started our workup for the deployment, which would take place in November 1980.
Okay.
So you go to sea with a purpose.
Okay. And so let's see. We're kind of out of time for today, but I'd certainly like to have you come back again because there's a lot more stories here that I think people would be very interested in. Is there anything else before we sign off here this morning that you'd like to tell people about your experience or the privilege of being the commanding officer of the America?
Well, I think the message is that we had the greatest Navy in the world. And why do we have it? Because of the young folks, the old folks that daily go out of their way and build a team of trust, confidence, integrity, and honesty and respect for each other.
Well, thanks, and I think that's a good place for us to end today. We hope you'll come back and we can talk some more about this because you've got a lot of aviating experience too besides just driving a big ship around. So, Admiral, thanks for being here with us today. Thanks for being a docent here at the museum also. We've cherished our relationship with you now for 13 or 14 years.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.